Felicia Day, thank you so much for taking the time today to talk with TechRaptor. We're going to talk about Felicia Day 3D. So, to start off, everyone wants to know, what is Felicia Day 3D?
Felicia Day 3D is it's a site that you can go to at thangs.com. You could get a subscription to download 3D models, or you could buy things individually. And what I do is I design models with really cool designers, and we offer those exclusively on the site, as well as curating different models from other designers on the web that I curate myself. So yeah, I I really have gotten into 3D printing. I fell in love with it. The tinkering aspect of it and the engineering aspect, but also the artistry. And that's something I love to do, combining tech and creativity. And this is like the perfect venue for it.
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, I believe that that's one of your pieces you're wearing.
It is absolutely. Thank you for noticing. I did design this with Kaizen 3D, who's an incredible 3D textile artist. We actually did a different color palette for our Mother's Day necklace, but I got this black one too. That's the wonderful thing about 3D printing. You can take, the recipe, the model, and you could tweak it to be however you want, and I think that's what is wonderful. You're not just like buying something pre-made. You can really infuse yourself into everything you print.
Yeah, who needs a size guide for a necklace or an accessory when you can just scale it?
Exactly. If you have a huge finger, you can do it.
So there is a wide variety of people who get really into 3D printing, cosplay creation, home hack users, TTRPG nerds like myself. So what kind of demographic of people should be looking to come to Felicia Day 3D?
Well, I've always had a passion for taking something that's a little bit inaccessible and making it more public for people to get into. So, just like I did with tabletop gaming, with Dungeons and Dragons, with Magic the Gathering, all these subjects at my old company, Gig and Sundry, I'm taking things and making, people be able to get into them in an easier way. So, we do have some prints that are like 30 minutes and out, one color, you're done, and you can really test out if you like the space or not. And then you can do the necklace, which is, it is printed up on fabric and there's some certain requirements. Or you can make minis and you can print them in resin on your resin printer. I did not paint this. For the record, I have a whole mini painting station that I've set up because I am making guild minis. So yeah, so there are three different demographics of the things that we're doing because they're my personal interests. There's cosplay and jewelry, as you can see.
Mhm.
There's minis, like I just showed you. And then there's toys that you can make for and with your kids. Because the biggest impetus for getting into this is Webmaster Thread I did with a designer named Mimetics 3D, Moonlight Minis, collaborated with me to make the Guild Minis, which are so incredible. So as you can see, I do like to give the designers credit because I am not in the program modeling. I am collaborating, doing mood boards, inspiration boards, all those kind of things. And then we go back and forth and we get the vision, into the printer. So yeah, we have a whole line of three horoscope D20 necklaces. We're going to have three of them out this month at least. And yeah, so those are the three categories because those are the ones that I would want to make myself.
Okay, yeah, and you did speak about wanting to credit creators and everything. I do really like on the website, it has all of their usernames on the side, and you link to their page within the description. How did you go about connecting with those creators? Were they people who were already on things, or people that you've known in real life that you've kind of pulled into this endeavor?
Things approached me to do this project, and I've been very wary to do big collaborative projects with people ever since my company. I really burned out mentally, physically, and it's been like 5 years since I left it. And I really was just doing my own stuff, writing, acting, hosting,
Mhm.
doing my own podcast, streaming, all of that stuff. But because it's an area I really wanted to get into, because my daughter really loves it, she has a maker studio at her school. And I was like, I've got to get a 3D printer. And Paul from Things approached me and was like, hey, you seem to have a huge passion for this at a convention. And I was grilling him on what kind of printer. And the next week, he's like, here's a printer, let's get started. And we will facilitate the relationship that you have with these designers. So yeah, they had some lists of designers and I looked at all their work and I was like, these really speak to me as far as like the kind of minis I want to do, the kind of toys I want to do. But I'm actively every day, I spend like 30 minutes just looking at what's out there, putting down prints that designers that I'm like, hey, can we license that to add to the collection for a little while, or can we just reach out and make something original? Because it's if they benefit, I benefit, but they benefit if I give them full credit. People can go and find their work. To me, it's always like this circulatory system where we all rise to the top, and especially since it's such a small field right now, I think that zeitgeist is, I don't know, just fits me as a person.
So, in your initial announcement, in your initial designer post, you do mention that at the start of this whole, you hadn't got into 3D printing yet because it had kind of intimidated you.
Yeah.
Now that you are more into it, kind of what are some of those intimidating steps that you had, and how did they become not as intimidating as you got more into it?
Yeah, I mean, listen, months ago when I was thinking about buying a 3D printer and I was like, I don't really know how they work. I went to a Reddit post and somebody asked like a very simple question that I had, like, how do you get the file into your printer? And the first Reddit comment was like, what are you doing with that stupid comment? How dare you come here with it? There's so many resources on the web to read it. Like, please, this is so, and I'm like, oh, this is why people maybe aren't getting into this because again, you need a doorway open to you, and because I didn't have those training wheels, I didn't have that person holding my hand in a way, it was really tough. I mean, I spent hours and hours on YouTube reading, watching videos on how to set it up after I set it up because it was quite hard. I was like, did I do it right? I just discovered I don't have desiccant in my AMS, and I'm like, oh, needed that. There was no real place in the instructions to tell me to do that. Like, these are not, I feel like I'm a smart person, but like, it's not obvious. There's so many little steps that you don't, they're in the manual. And so I'm not about to go become a YouTube person to train people on how to use their 3D printer. There are wonderful people out there to do that already. But I will say that the inspiration and the personality to get me into the space wasn't there to make it seem like, oh yeah, this could be for me. And so I would love to be that person. A lot of people don't even know that you could take one of these files and you go to your library. There's a lot of library systems that have 3D printing and maker spaces. And so a lot of people are like, I don't have one of those. It's not for me. Well, go to your brother, your sister-in-law, your whoever is in your family, your friend group, your library system. Maybe there's a makerspace in your city. And you could take that file and see if it's for you. Those kind of like little exposures will actually make it much easier to get into because, like I said, yeah, and like you said, it is intimidating. The bar is high to get into it. But once you're there, it's so gratifying.
Because it sounds like from context clues, you got a filament printer. I know that I've
Yes.
been messing around with a resin printer, and I purchased that just because there was no assembly required. But
Yeah. Oh, okay. So there's no assembly required in your resin printer?
yeah, or minimal.
Oh, wow.
Um,
Yeah, I was afraid because I have a 7-year-old and like this is something that I want to do with her. And I was just worried about the fumes. And I live in a small house in the middle of Los Angeles. I like to keep things compact. And I don't have a whole garage. Like this is my garage. So it's either I write or I print. And I was like, well, sorry. So I do have the bamboo X1 carbon over here and I can print it while I'm working and I love it. I just open the window and yeah, I think the resin printer would be maybe if I would maybe I don't know, maybe I get a shed. I don't know. It'd have to be far away from the house. But believe me, now that I have a mini painting station where I used to have a keyboard I never touched, hopefully I'll be over there at some point.
it's going to be a full assembly line.
Yeah.
You'll learn the modeling next, and then it'll just be a one woman show.
I mean, this is I love learning. I mean, this is really it. Like one of the first things I printed, I got a jam in the AMS. I got some filament, I don't know. I was printing two filaments that shouldn't have gone together. I did get a warning. I was like, and it got a clog and I was freaking out. I'm like, I don't have anybody near me in my life who knows how these things work. I'm like, send it back. And then I'm like, Felicia, calm down. This is mechanical. People do this all the time. And I watched a couple YouTube videos and I took everything apart. I used Allen wrenches. I used everything. And yeah, some people are like, eye roll. Wow, you used a wrench. I'm like, this is a big deal for me, right? I'm not the kind of person to take things apart, right? So the fact that I was able to get that thing unstuck without asking for any help was so liberating. And I felt I felt powerful. And then I made something with it. It's just really cool, man.
What was the first thing that you printed, if you don't mind my asking?
I tried to make a whooper for my daughter. It's a Pokemon. She loves whooper. And
Oh.
I subsequently printed a different one with the correct type of filament. And it's beautiful. I was the mom of the year. But the first one I was trying to mix two, it was just a rainbow. I don't know, whatever. It got clogged. I cleaned it out.
Excellent. Um, so at the moment, there's just a few things on the store. Kind of
Yeah.
what is the rate you're looking at for things to add? Are you going to have like themed months? I know that a lot of like 3D print Patreons and stuff will do that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is just starting out, and we started with five original models. And like I said, there were two necklaces, there were two miniatures, and then the little spider. And the spider's really cool because you can lock the joints. It's not just floppy. A lot of the articulated pieces are just floppy. Memetics has this thing where you can lock them and pose them, which I think is really cool. And we'll be doing another one of those next month, I believe. Yeah, we're going to definitely accelerate the release. We're going to do two minis a month. We're going to finish the whole guild, do the Axis of Anarchy. Then I have a whole nother project and another vibe that I want to do in the mini world. We also always will have jewelry because I love it. And I am also sourcing, adding more to the collection. Like I said, being able to license things. Hey, can I have one of your models for the month? And then, as you said, we very expressly, credit the designer on all the things I do with the artists. We both have our initials on the bottom because I think it's important. Designers, we're both artists. We're doing different parts of this design process, but if people are like, I really like that, I would love for them to go check the designer stuff, other offerings out. So yeah, we're hoping to fill out the collection and of course do things around holidays. We have a special initiative next month because it's my birthday. We'll be doing a charity project, a little piece that if you download the print or the model, then a big substantial portion of that will be going to charity. So yeah, I want to do themes. I want to have fun with it. It is what I love about it is it's a living, breathing sort of project. So we're changing, depending on what people like, what they download. And we have a very vibrant Discord on my Discord channel, Felicia Day, Felicitations in Felicia Day, FD 3D printing. We have a whole channel where people are chiming in. They're sharing designers they like that I go check out and seeing if they kind of fit within, the vibe of what, Felicia Day likes.
Excellent. And I mean, the entrepreneurial spirit doesn't just end with you and the designers. I also saw that you've got the merchant tier of subscribers. So that lets people print and sell those prints once they have been printed.
Yes.
What
Yes.
does that
If
look like
there's
for someone?
if they wanted to go to a convention, I mean, honestly, I've been obsessed with so many 3D creations on people's bodies when they come up to me at a convention. And I'm like, where did you get that? And they're like, I printed it up. And I'm like, oh, magic. So yeah, I would love for somebody, once we finish the guild, like have all six guildies out there available for people to purchase. I think Moonlight Minis, actually, if you don't have your own printer, you can purchase the minis, So there are already retailers out there who are offering these models. And I hope as we, accumulate more pieces for people that will be able to expand those offerings and people will be interested in licensing. I mean, yeah, it's all about putting creativity into the world. We're going to try to get all 12 of these horoscope necklaces out pretty soon. We're accelerating it. I started with my own sign, of course.
I mean, it's your birthday next month, so we are either in or very close to the relevant time frame anyway. It makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. But we're going to be releasing Gemini, Leo, and Virgo, I believe, at the beginning of the month. So a lot more people will be happy next month.
And then the month after, everyone else has to wait.
You'll have to wait. We're getting there. We can only move, my designers they all have their own lines as well. So that's the great part. We're all in it together.
So if you're soliciting, or maybe not soliciting, but people are offering up additional designers in your Discord, and you're going on and looking around, you are actively looking to see how you can grow this, or you're still kind of seeing how it goes for now.
No, no. I mean, I think the more that people, because for the subscription, you get 5 downloads a month. And I think is pretty reasonable. It's like $2 a model. And we want to make sure that if you go, there's 5 that you're really excited about. And so, not everybody needs a cancer necklace. So we're definitely working on filling it out, licensing, finding designers who are not necessarily 3D printers, like I'd love to work with jewelry designers and, RPG and tabletop designers who work in other mediums and come and do a collab. Maybe it's the step they need to get into the space, right? So for me, this is about collaboration. It's about exploration and creativity. And wherever we can make cool things with technology, I want to be there. The guild took off because I was one of the first, shows on YouTube, right? And the iPhone came out the year after and blew up social media. And I was one of the first people on Twitter, like all these things.
Mm-hmm.
Being early in tech is something I have a passion for because it's the most creatively fertile time. It's when you get new tools and what are creators going to do with those tools. It's very exciting. And now I think 3D printers are accessible enough that can be a tool for people. And I am just excited to be along for the ride and expand my own creativity with everyone else.
Yeah, definitely. As someone who's only recently got into Dungeons and Dragons more myself, the ability to be able to just like get files, print them, have something to put down at the table. It's definitely not for everyone's game, but I've really
Yeah.
enjoyed that at-home aspect.
Oh no, I love, I of course love D&D. I was in, we had Critical Role on my company, Geek and Sundry. That's where they started. And so I've been playing D&D for, a long, long time. And I love the fact that I could like download a little stove. It's almost like a dollhouse, but nerdy. I hate to put it like that, but it is. And it just delights me. I'm like, ooh, what can we make? Can we make a little house? I love it.
And we've definitely talked about the history with the Guild Minis and Geek and Sundry and everything. As someone who's been so involved in prop making for a while, and then probably watching more prop making happening from a distance, kind of how have you
Mhm.
seen 3D printing changing the prop space?
I mean, it's obviously making better quality, replicas for things. I can't offer anything in my catalog that is not owned by me IP wise. But at the same time, I think the most popular prints out there and the models out there are like, Pokemon and Harry Potter and all this stuff. And so what is exciting to me is that I think as these fan projects get out there, it's going to become more high profile and push companies to satisfy the need of what people maybe they'll discover new designs and aspects of their own IP that they hadn't discovered because fans are like putting themselves in there. I love it when grassroots um, movements push bigger companies to change, right? And that is where I think 3D printing is now. I mean, of course, probably in 5 years, big companies are going to come over and but boom, boom, we're going to take over. But the stronger the individual creators are now, the more power they'll have when that inevitably happens, right? And so that's what I love. Not only are there, prop making and wonderful, sets and costumes and cosplay pieces being made that are based on big properties, but people are doing really wonderful, amazing things with their own stuff. And who knows? Maybe somebody's gauntlet will create a whole universe. I actually have a whole set of minis that I'm planning on because I was inspired. I was like, oh, that would be cool to see a mini like that. But wait, what if we wrote a module around that, So for me, this is exciting in that it's spurring other creative projects off of that.
That's always fun when you get to build something totally around like this is really cool. I've definitely had at least two or three minis on sites like Thangs or Thingiverse that has just been like, I want that. I have no legitimate reason to print that, but I will make that reason.
Yeah, it'll have it is creatively inspiring, that's I think that's what's wonderful about it. And if somebody's, model inspires you to do that, like I mean, quite frankly, I was totally burnt out on my show, The Guild. It's been like 8 years since I worked on it. And the fact that I've worked with Christine, who is the modeler, the designer over at Moonlight Minis, the fact that I worked with her to kind of recreate these guys and write little descriptions, it's really kind of make me realize I'm not as burnt out on them. I was burnt out on my babies. And now I'm like, I wonder what these guys would look like in an RPG. So anyway, yeah, wherever you can find inspiration, you got to grab at it. And for me, 3D printing is where it's at right now.
So, are there any aspects? I know that there's only so much you can cover in an interview. Are there any aspects of Felicia Day 3D that you're really like, this is what I want people to know that we maybe haven't touched on in our conversation?
Well, I mean, I think it's mostly that it's really fun and it's not as hard as it looks. It's not, I think that the reputation of 3D printing is a lot more engineering based, a lot more tech based, a lot of more like Linux almost, you know, it's the Linux dude sort of vibe around getting into 3D printing. And yeah, it absolutely was like that, I think. But again, once the technology becomes more accessible to a plug and play kind of mind and design, then you're going to have people who come in and do approach it from a different way. And so that's me, right? I mean, I did enjoy cleaning out my AMS only because I was like, I'm going to do that. But like, it's not my life's dream to replace everything in my house with what something I 3D printed, right? It's just not, okay? I just want to make beautiful things. I want to go down the street like I did earlier today and have like, oh, where'd you get that necklace? I'm like, well, I designed it. And you know, I want people to be like, hey, I played Codex in a D&D game and she totally wiped the party. Thank you very much. You know, so I
Here's my little
want
trophy.
exactly. Hi. Oh, that would be so funny. Here's my wipe trophy. So yeah, and getting your kid, especially women and girls, into a place that feels like very male dominated.
Mm-hmm.
That's never my agenda, but it's just who I am. And I feel like especially early on in a area of tech and sort of inaccessibility because the door isn't open because the personalities or the it just doesn't feel inviting enough. You know, it is. It's wonderful. And the earlier you get a kid, the better. So if we can have more girls like my little girl coming home and saying, I love making things, mama. I want to build things. I want to design my own thing. Like that's going to lead to all sorts of benefits down the line and all sorts of career paths and open doors for her that she might not have had before. So, yeah, I think there's a lot of layers going on. And at the end of the day, I just want to make a spider with a party hat, you know?
That
Doesn't need to be more
true.
profound than that.
What more do we need in the world than additional spiders with little party hats?
Webmaster Fred is ready to open it up, you know?
Excellent. So, if people are wanting to learn more about Felicia Day 3D or just see what you're up to, where should they go?
They can follow me everywhere at Felicia Day, except TikTok. It's Felicia.day, whatever. And they can go to things.com/Felicia Day 3D. If you want to know about all my projects, I have a very beautiful website that I recently updated. It has everything. Will take you everywhere, Felicia.day. Thank you for that .day extension, Google. And yeah, I'm doing lots of things always. So just follow me and I will be there making something. I know.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with TechRaptor today.
Thanks. Bye.